Welcome to Petgevity, the podcast that gives you the best advice to help your pets live longer, healthier lives.
Imagine it's a hot summer's day. The sky is a blanket of blue, the scent of sunscreen floats through the air, and the queue for the ice cream van stretches long into the distance. It's the perfect day for a swim. So you grab a towel, walk to the Lido, and dive into the water. However, when you surface, you realise something's not quite right. Your fellow swimmers seem hairier than normal, and one stroke is proving particularly popular. Doggy paddle. As your eyes adjust, you slowly notice that the Lido is packed full of floating dogs. But this isn't some strange dream. In fact, you've just stumbled into one of Saltdean Lido's Dogtember events, a day when the Lido swimming facilities are opened up to our four-legged friends. Today, I'm joined by Dr Julia Mews, founder of Mewes Vets and provider of veterinary support during all the Dogtember events. Together, we'll explore the benefits of swimming for dogs, the role hydrotherapy can play in mobility and recovery, and how owners can help their pets take risk-free dips. Hello, Julia. Welcome to the Petgevity podcast. We're going to start with some quick-fire questions, and I would like you to just give yes or no answers. So question number one, can regular pond swims help your dog recover from a joint injury?
Yes.
Are some dog breeds more likely to get infections from swimming?
No.
Can dogs that are nervous around water learn to enjoy swimming?
Yes.
And for the last question, you can have a full sentence now. If possible, why should swimming be a part of every dog's walk?
Because it's fun and it's really good for them.
Awesome. I want to start by talking about Saltdean's Lido's Dogtember events, when they welcome dogs to have a splash in their pool. You and your team have been the on-site vet there for a few years now. What do these days look like and how do they work?
Well, it's like a great big fur-wrapped bundle of fun. All day, we don't stop smiling. Honestly, it's the most amazing day out. My team fight each other for the right to be there. It's brilliant. So how it works is they sell the tickets online and it's the right to swim with your dog in the Lido. And it's unheated and it's at the end of the season and sometimes it rains, but it doesn't matter. You have 150 dogs and their families. It's an enormous enclosed space. So it's safe. It's like a one of those safe fields where you can let your dog off the lead, but you know it's safe, can't get into any trouble. It's like having all your best friends, both four-legged and two-legged, together in one place for an hour and a half, and the dogs just love it. Those that have been before and come back a second time, they tear in, dying to get going, and their owners are still sort of taking off their clothes and getting ready, and the dogs are like all over it. My favorite is the Labrador one. I have certain bias in that area. And 150 Labradors running around, playing, tails wagging, splashing, swimming. It is a joy.
Now, as vets, those opportunities to do something so fun is few and far between sometimes. So I can understand everyone's hoping they get to be, the selected person to go and cover for that. That's really awesome. What should owners consider to keep their dogs happy and safe in this situation?
Well, it is a big group event. So if you have a dog that is challenged by crowds or is a bit shy, nervous around other dogs, this is absolutely not the event to start with. But dogs who are confident and there is in fact lots of space. It's not really crowded in the sense that you can get to one side, you can have your own area. People lay out picnics, they lay out blankets, and there's a lot of animals tearing around all over the place off lead. So not for nervous dogs. And for the first timers, we do encourage them to concentrate on making sure the dogs are aware of the steps, because it's very easy for them to just leap in from the side, but then they don't know how to climb out. and trying to scrabble at the deep end sides where there are no steps, we do see some injuries to toenails. So we really encourage all newbies to show their dogs where the steps are and to make sure that they're calling them towards the steps when it's time to climb out. I love the baby area. So there's paddle pools for those who are a bit shy of the water. They can start just ankle deep, just dip their pawsies in, and not actually have to swim straight away. And that can be good enough for the whole session for some. They just spend the whole time off in the paddle pool area and never go into the deep end, and that's fine too.
And I think the $1 million question here is, do they clean the pool after?
They do at the end of the 8 days of Dogtember, but not at the end of each session or at the end of even each day. But yes, the reason they're doing it is because they know they're going to drain the pool and give it a thorough clean.
Some reassured listeners, I can be sure. I can be sure. Dogtember sounds and clearly is a fantastic day out for dogs and their owners and carers. But swimming can offer so much more than just fun. It can also play a very clearly important role in supporting dogs' health. And I've seen this myself, on many occasions in my practice. So I need to ask you, what is hydrotherapy? What is it?
Hydrotherapy is using water as part of the care of an animal for whatever reason that care might be needed. It's often used in cases of osteoarthritis, or particularly to help animals lose weight who've got a reason why higher impact forms of exercise might not be good for them. So there are two forms of hydrotherapy. There's the actual swimming out of your depth, usually done in a controlled way under the care of a trained hydrotherapist. But also there's the treadmill, which is underwater. Now, these are really clever. So you've got a watertight, it's almost like a fish tank, but imagine it big enough for your Labrador or your Bernese Mountain Dog. And there's a treadmill, which will work even with the water on top of it. I don't understand the electrics of that, why that doesn't sort of go bang, but it doesn't. And certainly my own elderly Labrador took advantage of a local hydrotherapy centre after a cruciate injury. And so she was taught very gently how to walk on the treadmill first dry. And then when she was confident about that, they allowed the water to fill. It's very warm. Well, it's just perfectly the right temperature. And then the hydrotherapists were able to manage how she was moving, at what speed, so that she could use her muscles, but with some of her weight lightly taken by the water to reduce the effective impact, the pain of her injury.
Why therapy or hydrotherapy is good for dogs with joint problems? Could you expand on that for me?
When you've got an injury, if you think of yourself as a human, if you've ever had injury, you tend to tighten up. You sort of clench your muscles around the injured area. You sometimes notice this thing people call spasm. And a lot of the pain is associated with that clenching and that tightness. And you're reluctant to move the injured area. But actually, gentle movement in a controlled way is really good for the healing process. And particularly if it's a chronic injury, that is an illness that's likely to be long-term, then the affected areas can get so tight that you actually lose the range of movement, and you get stiffening and tightening of the associated muscles and tendons. And the joy of hydrotherapy is that it encourages the right kind of movement without actually causing further injury. And so you get stretching, very gentle stretching of the ligaments that had been tightening and of the muscles. You see the joints moving in a way that warms them and helps them to be healthy. And all this while, the weight of the patient is being supported by the water so that there's less impact and less risk of further injury. So I recommend it routinely for injured animals. As we were saying earlier, if an animal is terrified of water or hates swimming, it might not be the right choice for them. And we have to be really careful with them afterwards that they're dried off and they're not shivering all the way home. But it is a great form of therapy for joints. It allows movement in a gentle and supported way that might not be possible by just putting them on a lead and walking them around the block. And
that's really good to hear from a veterinary perspective, for sure, that giving slightly nuanced cases, different opportunities to have improvement via different forms of physiotherapy or hydrotherapy in this particular case is really important, and being open to those interventions is great.
Of course, many insurance companies actually cover it as well.
Exactly. And that goes to show that they see value in it as well.
The importance of it.
But in the case, speaking of insurance, if you don't have the time or the money or the access to professional hydrotherapy for whatever reason, what can carers and owners get similar benefits, or how can they get similar benefits by taking their dog for swims in other bodies of water, the pond or the lake?
Well, absolutely. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a body of water with safe access in and out, and a pet who enjoys getting wet, and you can get them home or back in the car and dried quite briskly, then sort of DIY kind of hydrotherapy could be immensely beneficial, both for short-term injuries and potentially for those just suffering from the effects of arthritis of old age. I'm lucky enough to practice near Brighton, so we have access directly to the sea, and certainly the Pebble Beach is quite perfect for a gentle slope into the water for animals to enter and exit safely. But you might have, for instance, a pond or a lake near you, or even a river. Some people, I've definitely got clients who've actually got swimming pools they permit their animals to go in. And I think the main issue is entry and exit safely. If your animal, the reason you're doing it is because they've got an injury to one of their legs, or maybe they've got arthritis in multiple joints of their legs, the last thing we want them doing is scrabbling and struggling to get up or down a slippery entrance, or at the bank of a river, for instance. And I mean, certainly my over-enthusiastic Labrador, when she was middle-aged, leapt into a river in Wales, which fortunately wasn't very fast running. She leapt into every body of water she ever came across, let's be honest. But on this particular occasion, as usual, no thought about how am I going to get out. And it was quite a project to get her back up to where we were. She required rescue from a canoeist. So, I think it's a little bit about planning, thinking ahead and thinking what could go wrong. But otherwise, I think it could be very beneficial if done in an intelligent way.
Yeah. We've spoken a lot about dogs with kind of conditions, osteoarthritis or biomechanical concerns, but can regular swimming benefit your dog or a dog, even if there isn't any mobility issues? Is this a good practice, generally speaking?
I really think so. I think that it builds muscle, it builds fitness, it builds strength, it builds flexibility. It's good exercise and it's good for your body, whether you're four-legged or two-legged.
It's clear. It sounds like a great idea to add swimming to your dog walks, or some part in some nature. However, water rarely comes without risks, and we've touched on this, and it can be quite nerve-wracking watching your dog going for a swim in whatever body of water, as we've mentioned. So let's address some of the risks and find out how we can suitably manage them, or try to manage them. Let's start with getting in and out of the water. You've mentioned it, but what do we really need to consider when we're making this decision?
Mud is slippery. Steep slopes are a challenge to older legs. I think those are the priorities. So you're looking for an entry and exit that has a slope that is appropriately inclined, so not too steep and not too muddy. And you might have to change your plan depending on the conditions. If you're out and about, so one day it might be perfectly safe to let your dog go down that particular slope, and another day it might have changed completely. There might have been heavy rain, and they get down all right, but then they're really struggling to get up, and they can actually exacerbate an injury.
I instantly was transported to spaniels, all forms of spaniels coming out of some body of water, and then there's the panicked emergency phone call to the vet. So I've been in that situation. I know it very well. And in those situations where an injury could occur, hypothetically, how do we know as, caregivers and owners at home, if our dog is struggling and needs that extra support?
I think that would show itself potentially quite devastatingly by them immediately going very lame indeed, maybe even carrying one leg if they've pulled something really badly. It's unlikely they'd break a bone, but I can imagine a ligament going, or toes can be very painful if they're sprained. So maybe they return to you, but they're on three legs where they went in on four. This is definitely not what we're hoping for. Alternatively, what we quite often see is they seem fine when they come out, you dry them off, you get home, they have a little nap, and then they get up and they're much stiffer after their little nap, and they're like, well, like you or me, when we've pulled something, they're sort of a bit like, oh, and you're like, that wasn't how you were this morning. And that's less serious, generally speaking, but we all know what that feels like. And a nice massage can help. Maybe a hot water bottle against the area you think is the problem. Maybe a little bit of some pain relief. Maybe a call to the vet. In the latter scenario, but certainly if they come out and they're on three legs because of something that's happened, God forbid, check for blood. Make sure they haven't cut themselves whilst they were underwater, and then perhaps arrange to see the vet.
What problems can arise from drinking water while swimming?
Well, let's mention blue-green algae. So, at this time of year in the summertime, we will see, particularly on water that is pretty stagnant, it's not really moving, and it's quite easy to see if there's a blue-green sort of vegetation surface.
Gunk?
Yeah, gunk. Good word. Then I really wouldn't want your doggies to be swimming through that, because some of that will get in your mouth, and some of those blue-green algae are toxic and possibly could cause a stomach upset. But then also, I suppose you never do know what is in a body of water. If there were obvious signs of an oily substance floating on the surface of the water, maybe it could have been contaminated with petrol or something like that. It kind of has a rainbowy effect. It's very pretty, but it's not a good idea to let them in there. Some bodies of water are just plain stinky, and you think, oh my goodness, that really. There's a body of water near stables that we used to walk along, and she would come out of that absolutely stink. Well, she came out of it once, absolutely stinking. I never let her in there again, because I just felt like there was the runoff from the manure from the stable yard, and you're thinking, okay, what kind of germs might be in there? There could be water contaminants in the way of E. coli and so on. Hopefully, it's not going to happen. And I think perhaps you're thinking more about that when you're out somewhere you're not used to, because obviously if your dog's been in and out of the same pond multiple times, you're kind of getting a feel that it's safe. But the first time they come across somewhere, and usually with a Labrador or a Spaniel, first of it is splash. You don't get to choose whether they're going in or not. They're already in. So surface contamination, not too much of a problem. Swallowing it excessively might be a risk, but most healthy adult dogs are probably going to be able to throw off minor infections. It's just overwhelming infection could be a bit scary. It might be worth mentioning leptospirosis. Obviously, hopefully, the majority of dogs in this country are vaccinated annually against leptospirosis. It is a really serious killer disease, and it can spread from a dog to people, which is very serious indeed, and can kill the person as well. And this, of course, is coming from rat urine. And it's a danger to sewage workers and anybody who has a reason to be working around where rats live, so farm labourers and so on. And if your dog does jump into the kind of gully puddle where rats might have been doing their thing, and they're perfectly welcome to do their thing, but leptospirosis is out there, and it is a really serious kidney infection for doggies. And if your dog is not vaccinated against leptospirosis, then that is a really high risk situation.
Yeah, and I think for everyone listening, we as veterinary practitioners, we don't see it that often, but when we do, it is definitely an emergency that we want to get on top of extremely quickly. So it's a really, really good point of thinking, wait, does this look safe? Would I want to consume this? Well, completely agree. If we think about other bodies of water, maybe slightly larger ones, I know seawater is something that I have seen a couple cases with before. Could you tell me more about what concerns you might have with, for example, a dog drinking large amounts of seawater, for example?
Unfortunately, this does sometimes seem to happen in their overexcitement, and they can go into a kind of drowning state. And this is something that the symptoms aren't going to be visible for potentially hours after the swim. So, and you don't know that they've drunk lots and lots of water. And I think they call it secondary drowning, where the body is reorganizing the water that's gone into the stomach, taking it into the bloodstream, and the bloodstream reaches a point where it just can't manage with all this additional water suddenly flooding into the bloodstream, and dumps it into the lungs. And absolutely, this is not a good place. Air and water should not be mixing in the lungs at all. It's a really bad situation, and they start to struggle to breathe. Touch wood, despite working on the coast, I don't hear of this very often, but I'm aware of it as a theoretical risk.
I often hear or see ear infections even from swimming. And this is something that I see more often, or I think I see more often. I've plotted the two and put them together. Firstly, is that something that you've seen or see regularly? And if so, how can we lower this specific risk, if at all?
Yeah, I certainly see ear infections very regularly. And actually, I'm very interested in this aspect. So for years now, I've been asking people as part of my workup for the infection in the ear, does your dog swim? The usual answer is the ones with ear infections don't swim. I'm like patting myself on the back going, yeah, this one's a swimmer. It's got an ear infection. And they go, no, never goes near the water, never goes above their knees. In my experience, the ear infections I see don't seem to be correlated with the avid swimmers at all. So I know people worry about that. And I think I've come across people who've talked about putting balls of cotton wool down the ear canal. I'm not sure I'm really 100% behind that. I worry that somehow things will get worse rather than better. We might perforate an eardrum or end up, I don't know, with bits of wool that stay down there for months on end. I don't even feel passionately that one should be drying ear canals.
That's really interesting, and it's good, and it's also going to help guide my thought process when I'm in that situation going forward. That's really helpful. Thank you. How can we encourage swimming if your dog is nervous of water?
Sometimes the example of others is really helpful. It depends if your dog's nervous of water, but not nervous of lots of dogs being around. But if you've got a dog belongs to a friend maybe who loves water, and you show your nervous dog of another dog playing in the water, they might get get the hang of the idea that actually it's really fun. And the other way, of course, as with everything with animals, is just to introduce the concept really gradually and not expect too much. I mean, I have once or twice seen people throw their nervous dogs into the Lido at the deep end because, like, they should know how to swim. And I'm like, no, really, why would you do that? Take them to the shallow end, let them get their paws wet in the paddle pool, build it up gently. I mean, if we get another really hot summer, a great place to start is a paddle pool in the back garden. Most dogs will quite readily enjoy cooling down in a paddle pool. And then from there, it's quite a small extension, really, to rivers or lakes or ponds. But if you can find somewhere that's not very threatening, maybe go in yourself with your Wellingtons on, and just demonstrate that you're not worried, that you're enjoying it, that it's all good fun. So it's just taking it gently and giving a good example, making it a happy experience. And in some cases, just accept that it isn't to be. We're all allowed to be different, and dogs are too.
And there's a lot of positive reinforcement to show that, you're sharing this experience. So, everything you said makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to plug the Dogtember events. So are events like Dogtember a good way to encourage them to swim?
I think they are, as I say, just subject to the very nervous animal who doesn't like a big crowd of people and dogs. There is a lot of woofing, very excitable doggies charging around, playing with one another. But yes, if they can handle that, they do offer the quiet sessions. It's like the Zen sessions for doggies. One session every day. At the end of the day, they sell a lot less tickets so that the atmosphere is really much more calm. So that might be a really good option for somebody who wanted to just try it out, but they're worried their dog could become overwhelmed. But yeah, a Dogtember is immense fun for dogs as well as for people, and for my team as well.
Thank you, Julia. That's been really, really helpful.
Not at all.
Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Fabian Rivers, and this podcast is brought to you by Petgevity. If you'd like to find out more about how we can help your pet live a longer and healthier life, the link is in the show notes. This podcast is produced by Flamingo Media. Thanks, and see you next time.